Welcome to the Life Podcast, where life stands for Live Inspired Fully Every Day. Join our host, world-class speaker, executive coach, and leadership strategist, Anissa Rashad. Each week, as she sits down for an intimate conversation with business executives, influencers, and artists who are at the top of their game to reveal the strategies they use to excel in their respective fields and their personal lives by unpacking their spirit. Each episode is guaranteed to help you lift a load, tackle a problem, gain a new perspective, while having a laugh in the process. Now here's your host, Anissa Rashad. Welcome, welcome, welcome to today's episode of the Life Podcast. I am Anissa Rashad, and I am inviting you to live inspired fully every day. Today, we are honored to have as our very special guest, Ambassador Harry Thomas. Now, when I was doing my research on Ambassador Thomas, I said it felt like the 12 days of Christmas. So let me tell you who he is. He has had 3 ambassadorships. He speaks 4 languages, has served in 7 countries, has visited over 50 countries, was in the Foreign Service for 34 years. He retired this past March. He had the honor to serve in Peru, Nigeria, Zimbabwe. It was so nice, he did it twice. So he served 2 times in Zimbabwe. He served in India, Bangladesh, the Philippines, and he also had the privilege to serve in the White House. He was serving in the White House during 9/11 under Dr. Condoleezza Rice. Harry, welcome to the show!
Well, thanks for having me, Anisha. That's a great intro. Really appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. Now, I just want to jump right in because we want to maximize all of our moments. And I know the folks that are listening to us, they are busy, and they are the people who listen to the Life Podcast are students. So they tune in to get all of the nuggets and all of the wisdom that you've accumulated over 34 years of serving our country around the world. So I just want you to tell us a little bit about like what it is you do. We hear these terms like ambassador or even the Foreign Service. And many of us, we kind of know what it is. And we know you guys are over there doing great work, but we don't really know. We don't really know. Know. So tell us a little bit about what you've done over the course of your career in terms of what it means to be an ambassador, the role of ambassador, and kind of one trend you're paying attention to right now as it relates to that.
Sure. Our job is to protect Americans abroad. That's why embassies exist, to take care of all Americans traveling. But in addition to that, we help foreigners. But what people don't know is we sell American products. Boeing, Tropicana, Miller, we sell those. We help sell those. We help business persons sell their products. We help people establish TED Talks franchises in countries.
Wow.
Okay. So we do a lot of things to help the American economy, really business friendly. At the same time, we help others. You know, we spend in Zimbabwe $250 million a year to prevent HIV/AIDS, and it's working. It's one of our great programs. We never give money to foreign governments. That's a misnomer. We give services, we give treatment, we give medicine, nutrition. We fight human trafficking, the modern day form of slavery, which is endangering our country also. So what trends am I following now? Our government is shut down, unfortunately. So I'm seeing what my colleagues, former colleagues, can do to help American businesses sell their products when they're sold, when they're closed down, to help students coming from overseas to study in the United States. And they need a visa. A lot of our visa shops are closed. Now, that may not seem like much, but our universities rely on foreign students so much from India, from China, from Africa. I bet you don't know in Zimbabwe, we had 6 Rhodes Scholars in the last 2 years, in the last 3 years. And one of them you can look up because I know you work for NASA. Arthur Mutumbura was a Rhodes Scholar about 25 years ago. Arthur worked in Cincinnati, and he led the Mars Lunar Project's robotic arm.
That is remarkable.
He's from Zimbabwe. He's taught at Harvard, MIT, and FAMU.
And wow, 3 amazing universities.
Yeah. So we do a lot of those things. Well, of course, I used to. My colleagues still do, and I'm looking at that.
I'm just curious, like, what was one of the, and I'm sure there are countless, there has to be countless, like, what are the highlights when you look back on a career of serving in so many different places? What's something that kind of stands out for you as a highlight of your career?
So many, but one I'd like to tell you about. In the Philippines, when I was there, 4,000 women were dying a year in childbirth. And we know what that means to children when you lose a mother. And most of these women already had children. They died because, unlike you, they couldn't get an IV, which all women in America get in the hospital to prevent bleeding in the uterus.
Right.
And these women were dying. And you know how much a shot costs a day? $1. They couldn't afford it. So the U.S. government partnered with American pharmaceutical companies to have a syringe that didn't have to be cooled. It could be laid out. Anybody could give it, shooting a woman's fatty part of her body. We use midwives in the Philippines. And now we're saving 4,000 lives a year. That's foreign aid. That's foreign aid. But that's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
That is one of the many that stands out, but it comes to mind quickly.
Absolutely. I love that. I think oftentimes we do a lot of things. We see a lot of the bad stuff in the news, and oftentimes those stories, the good news stories, are the ones that we don't get to hear and they don't get shared.
Yeah, if it bleeds, it leads, it's a form of
that is so true. So now I want to delve into you, Harry the man, not necessarily ambassador, or retired ambassador, Harry the man. So I'm curious, what is life trying to teach you right now, sir? What is life trying to teach you?
Well, I'm trying to learn how to teach. I'm fortunate enough to be at Yale. I taught before at Arizona State, wonderful institution. But I teach a seminar on global crisis response. Last semester, I taught on African economic and trade. And so you got a lot of smart students, a lot of foreign students, a lot of interested kids. And how do I keep them motivated? These are millennials. They come with their laptops. You can, you're not teaching them, but you're not exciting them. So I'm learning how to perform.
Yes.
Not just teach, how to perform to keep their attention.
Yes.
And Yale is very different than other schools. The first 2 classes each semester, students are shoppers, which means they just look at you for 2 classes. Only semester starts as the 3rd class. So they go around. If you're bored, they just wake up, walk out, and leave.
Wow.
And you have to be calm while this 18-year-old's walking out of your class. So you got to learn to entertain.
So what I will offer you is that offline, you and I can sit down and have like a little session. I teach phenomenal class. That's like one of my genius zones. So I have students where at the end of the class, I'm like, if y'all go home, I promise we're going to do this again next week.
Great. Good.
So we keep the class engaging and fun. So it's one of my passion areas.
Thank you.
For sure. And so, so when is the last time you did something for the first time?
When is the last time I did something for the first time? Oh my God. I don't know. I think might have been a while back. I went, what do you call it? Parasailing. With my wife. And that was a little frightening, but I was.
So I was going to say, okay, tell us. Well, how was it? What did you think?
We were lucky. The wind wasn't high. And, but I wear glasses. You couldn't see much without the glasses on.
Right.
And, and when the wind picks up, I was holding on with both hands. I was nudging my wife. You waved to pull us down.
You do that part. Teamwork makes the dream work. Teamwork makes the dream work.
But parasailing. I try to do things different. You know, I became a swimming judge. My daughter was a varsity swimmer. I wanted to do things that I didn't do growing up. It wasn't, you know, I learned to play golf and tennis, which many people do, but I've become a big advocate for swimming of all kinds. And I became a swimming judge, a stroke and turn judge. That is important. Kids, so many kids die internationally and in America, but that's something you can do your whole life. Parasailing was fun. Yeah.
Swimming is something you can do your whole life. It's so interesting when you get an opportunity. Listen to the interview with Beverly Kuykendall.
Okay.
Amazing. She is the president of government business for AMD, American Medical Depot. In our conversation, she talks about how she has taken up swimming. She's gotten a private swimming coach and how it really made a huge difference in her life. A lot of her big thinking happens and takes place when she's in the water.
She must be swimming slow.
But she's not racing. She's swimming every day. So she's not in competition. She's not yet. Knowing Beverly, she could be, but not yet. Not yet. So now we get to the part of the show that many people dial in for that I love. This is where I get the privilege to unpack your spirit. And so that's your SPIRIT. So we're going to jump in with yes. I'm just curious, what's your secret sauce to success? You've had the opportunity to serve in multiple different places, right? And you've learned lessons from all of those different places. I'm curious, what's your secret sauce to success?
Work hard, but be good. I was told early on that you couldn't be a successful manager and be nice. I've tried to be nice, but that doesn't mean I try to be weak. You hold people accountable. You don't need to yell or scream, but you hold people accountable and you help them. I learned that from so many people. I've read a lot of books. There are a million business books and all that, but there's a few that work for me. And also the Bible. You know, the New Testament works for me. There's so many sayings, you know, that we abide by from the Bible. So business books, leadership books, and just watching little and big. And you know what? File things away. There's some things that you see 5-6 years ago and you file away. And then when you get a chance to lead, you can implement that.
So I heard you talk about the books. So are there one or two that stands out for you in particular that maybe our Life podcast listeners might like to listen to?
Sure. I love Rules and Tools for Leaders by General Perry Smith. It's really a checkbox book. It's the way I think. So in addition to short paragraphs on how to take over, how to innovate, how to fire even, how to discipline, how to use public affairs, he has a checkbook.
So it's Rules and Tools by General, say his name again?
Perry Smith.
Perry Smith. Rules and Tools by retired General
Rules
Perry
and Tools for Leaders.
For leaders. So that's one.
The next one is Legacy by Kerr. It's about New Zealand rugby. And everybody knows the haka dance they do and these things that they like rugby. And living in British Commonwealth countries, I've come to like rugby. But Rules and Tools for Leaders opens with the man of the match, the best player, sweeping the locker room. When you win, you sweep the locker room.
Wow.
If you score the best goal, you sweep the locker room. Keeps you humble, selfless leadership. They also, the other team, they wash their own clothes. Now, I can't imagine $100 million athletes doing that in America. I'm not so sure I would either. But the point is you have to remember selfless leadership. And the higher you go, the more humble you need to check yourself or have somebody to check yourself, whether it's your spouse or a family member, somebody. You know, I remember when I was in the Philippines, I had an office management specialist who had been with me even in India, Aloysa, and she said, Harry, go get a massage. I'm like, massage? We don't do it. She said, no, you need a massage. I don't. She said, we need you to have a massage. So that told me I needed to
do it for us, not for you.
I needed to chill. So you have to listen to them. And she told me I dress very boring. I just wear white shirts, blue shirts. I said, what can a man do to jazz up? She said, wear crazy socks. So about 10 years ago, I started wearing crazy socks, and I still do.
Do you do the happy socks?
I do every kind. You name it. It's so people. I'm easy to buy gifts for. My wife hates it. She's telling people stop buying them socks. But I got all these different socks, and yeah, everybody has happy socks. But you name the event. I got 4th of July socks. I got Kwanzaa socks. I got university socks.
And it's funny when people know it's your thing. So my thing is, I love good tea. And I have tea, Harry, from around the world. Somebody goes to China, they bring me back tea from China. Somebody goes to India, they bring me back tea from India. And somebody goes to Africa, they bring me back tea from I have amazing tea from around the world. But if I open it up and you look at it, it's a lot of tea, more than a lot of them in my lifetime.
Well, I hope you get to try kava.
Oh.
The best tea I ever had is from Kashmir in India. You brew it, and you brew it with almonds, a little honey. Now so it is so really good. I've never had tea better than kava.
You know what? I'm ready to hit up a good friend of mine who was at my wedding, Kavi. If you're listening to this, I'm going to need some of what he just said. I'm going to need some of that, Kavi. All right. So tell me principles. What principle has served you well as a leader? And I want to know from this particular perspective. You've had the opportunity to serve in different countries at 3 different ambassadorships. So that's pretty remarkable. Most ambassadors don't get the opportunity to have 3 ambassadors. And so you've had that. So when I'm thinking about these principles, I'm specifically thinking about what principles were you able to use that were across your different assignments? You know what I mean? Like you use this principle here, but it also applied over here that you're able to pull through and use in all of your assignments.
I learned from one of my mentors, Ambassador Kristen Kenny, to always accept responsibility. So if you make a mistake, say it, especially if you're the leader. Then you get used to it. At first, it seems hard. But, most of these things are trivial, even if it's a major thing, and people get over it. And the other thing is people don't expect it.
Right.
They expect you to say what had happened was, and just easy. It's easy. And if they see that as you're doing that, they will do that. Obviously, there'll be some mistakes that people have to be, really held accountable for, but most not. So always do that. You have to be honest. Even sometimes I have to check myself. When somebody asks me something, you want to kind of skirt, and you go, nah, let me not do that, because you get caught up, So that can be hard, but being honest, you can't lie to yourself. And if you lie to others, it's going to catch up with you.
Right.
And the other thing is care for your people. When I was married before, when my first wife was pregnant many years ago, we were in northern Nigeria, and she had to be brought home because she had a tough pregnancy. Our ambassador, Princeton Lyman, on his way to D.C., stopped at JFK, got off the plane and drove to my parents' house to visit her.
Wow.
And I learned you got to do things like that. It inspires people. They need to know you care for them and their families. So I've always tried to show that, whether visiting people in the hospital, calling their spouses, knowing their birthdays. Everybody that works for me, every woman gets flowers on Valentine's Day. Handing around.
For some women, that's probably the only flowers they get. Their husbands may not even remember to send those flowers.
Well, I learned a lesson. Don't ask women what was their favorite Valentine's Day. Because, Lord. so I give, but flowers, they love. Make everybody feel special on certain days and times. And that's what it's about. And but you have to learn what works in each country.
Yes. Because different in different countries.
A friend of mine, Joe Sullivan, who ran Warren Buffett's oil company in the Philippines, African-American guy from Alabama, made more profit there than he did in America. And why? Because he said he learned how to deal with the locals who wanted to have a party a month, wanted to have a big Christmas party, but he let them do it and they produced more.
Exactly. So I'm going to summarize some of the things I've heard you say. So one of the things I hear you say is, I'm going to use my words and capture your words.
Sure.
People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right? Definitely.
You got to care about your people. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. As a leader inside of an organization, if you have this team that just seems like a team of misfits and it seems like you just can't exactly get them on track, how about trying something that Ambassador Thomas just shared? How about showing your team that you care? So that's one of the principles I heard you say. Another one is own your mistakes. As leaders, yes, you are at the top of the organization. Yes, you make mistakes just like everyone else. So don't get caught in this trap of feeling like you have to present a certain way and show up a certain way and always be the person in the room with the most information. Own your mistakes. If you don't know, be vulnerable, right? It's okay not to know. So own your mistakes. And then when you do, take ownership for what you do. Take ownership and be accountable. Because when you model that inside your organization, that's how you spread that seed so that it can germinate inside of your organization, where your people then take ownership of their mistakes and they take ownership for their actions, and they're more accountable for the actions that they do. And in everything, bring honesty to the table. What you know, what you don't know, where are we with this? What do we need to do? But be honest. Yeah, I think
that's excellent. Excellent summation. Own your mistakes. I got to remember that.
Mistakes. And so what are you, sir, innovating on in your life? Like, you've done a lot of things, but right now in your life, what do you like doing to reinvent yourself? You retired in March, right? So this is kind of like that next leg, that second mile, that fourth, if you would. What are you doing to reinvent yourself in the fourth quarter?
I'm trying to become a better writer. We call it drafting in the Foreign Service because we would edit Mark Twain if we do that.
You could.
But write more for the public, as my sister told me, more adjectives, more descriptions, make somebody be able to see something, that river on the paper. So I've been practicing that.
So guys, I'll have to say, I do extensive research on my clients. So I read some of Dr. Thomas, Ambassador Thomas's writing, and I have to say he writes like an academic.
Yeah.
I understand what your sister, these smart people. You write like you're writing to other smart people. You write like you're writing to kindergartners. That's what people like to read. They like to read the exciting, the engaging. I'll tell you something funny. When my son was younger, I did all this work with personality types and leadership assessments. And so with him, I was parenting him in my style. So all of the books were these sing-song books. And one of the books was, Honey, Baby, Sugar Child, God knows I love you. And then I say something and he say something. I say something and he'd have to say something, right, as I'm reading the book. But that was my style. That was not his style. Right? So, but what I learned is that kind of, that kindergarten style, you have to talk to people in whatever their style is, whatever it is. That's the style. And so that academic writing works well, in that setting. Especially if you're talking about like social media and blogging and things of that nature, you're going to have to bring it way down, bring the conversation way down.
Yeah, I am used to the diplomatic corps, and we have to always be very careful of what we say, to whom, why, and how. Now I don't have to do that. So I can say anything I want, but I don't want to say it disrespectfully. Right. So I'm trying not to be boring, as you say. That's a legitimate criticism from my sister and you, which I accept. And I'm working on that. So
I can't help but always a coach. I'm just curious though, because there has to be a huge mental shift where you always had to worry about decorum, right? And specific to the environment that you were in, which was maybe different than your environment here. And so having to wear that way of thinking for so many years, and to now be, on Twitter or on other form of social media with people are using like OMG, SMA, shaking my head. You know, it's a whole different world. How does that feel for you? Is that a little uncomfortable or what?
It's challenging. It's not something I'm used to or comfortable with. It's something I need to worry about and learn how to do better, because you're watching, you're a diplomat 24/7. So every time you're watching, and you represent the United States. So you say something, somebody interprets that's headline. Somebody from another country says something, nobody cares. So all of those things, learning to, it's hard to unlearn 34 years.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is things I have to learn. Mm-hmm. Got to reinvent.
Well, that's what it's all about. I think sometimes when people are at the top of their game, they're an expert in one thing. It's hard for them to start seeing themselves in a new way. And so I have a term that I use with my clients. I'm an expert beginner.
That's good.
Right? It doesn't take away from all of the wealth of knowledge that you have in all of these other areas, but it's okay to be a beginner in something else. So I think we were talking offline before we got on the call, and I was telling you that I am and have been a social media loser. And I use that term because I read an article that said, you're a social media loser. And based on the criteria that was laid out in that article, even though I'm an expert in many things, when it comes to social media, not my thing. But guess what, Harry, that's one of the things I am innovating on in my life, is that I am getting my social media game up. Do you hear me? I am learning, really not social media. I'm studying digital marketing. It just really, it's a lot available to us in that digital marketing space. And I am going to master that. I tell you that. For sure.
Yeah. My daughter Zoe works in digital marketing. So that's her. Yeah, that's what she loves. And but you're right. I'm a social media loser too. I've got very few followers on Twitter.
Maybe we get us a club or something.
I know, losers club.
But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make you a winner, because I'm shifting that whole program, and I want to have a conversation with Zoe offline too.
Yeah.
Kind of see what her thinking is around. I might even get her as one of the podcast guests.
That'd be fine.
Around digital marketing and digital media, because as leaders, like you said, when you were an ambassador, you had to tweet and you had to do those things as a representative, right? And so a lot of leaders are finding themselves in the same situation where they have to have a social media presence because people are following their company, following their organization.
Yes, Senator John McCain used to tweet himself. He was walking out. He came to the Philippines. He had his iPad. He'd go around. I'm like, Jesus, the senator tweeting himself? So let me do that. But of course, he was an independent actor. I wasn't. So,
Exactly.
So I'm independent now, but I still, I still work for a university. Still have a consulting firm. So you got to be a little different. But it's a challenge.
So I am going to, and if you're out there, here we go. I want you to follow Harry Thomas. What's your handle? Do you even know what your handle is?
Yes, I do. On Twitter, it's Hollis192.
Spell it.
Hollis, HOLLIS 192. On Facebook, it is just Harry K. Thomas Jr. And that is where I do have a lot of followers, but basically from two countries, the Philippines and then Zimbabwe.
Right.
So, that's that. And Instagram, Harry K. Thomas. And I'm following more people than are following me.
Well, so for your Listen Life podcast, I want you to follow Ambassador Thomas and let him know you heard about him on the Life podcast, so he'll know. And give him feedback about what you thought about. And that's one thing to be better. Great. You always have to learn and you always have to tweak and change. So I always welcome the feedback from our
listeners. No, I've learned that you need to have that.
What they're getting, what they're taking away are the parts of the the podcast that they're finding most valuable. So I want to know about your rituals. What do you do? Is it something special you do in the morning? Is there a special mantra that you say? Is there a mountain that you go to sit on top of? Like
I wish. I do. I have to have coffee before I can do anything.
So coffee is a ritual. Got to get that morning, Joe.
I do stretching exercises. Then I do push-ups. I've always, I always used to compete in push-up contests, even up until I was in Zimbabwe. So I try to do push-ups just to keep it up. But I don't want to be able to not do push-ups.
So let me tell you, RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, when I watched her movie, The Notorious RBG, I said, I need to start doing push-ups. Now I'm going to tell y'all, I'm not started yet. I've just planted the seed at the seed place. So maybe it'll pop up in a year, might be 2 years, because I haven't done one and I have no intention to even start anytime soon.
And you can build it up.
The recognition that it was something I needed to start doing, as inspired by Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Tremendous admiration for her in so many ways.
In so many ways.
So many ways. So
I think
that would be great.
Owe her so much, and they don't even realize that they owe her so much.
Yeah, no, we do. I hope, pray for her health. But I do those things, coffee, stretching, sit-ups. Doctor told me as you get older, stretching is more important than anything.
Absolutely.
And serious stretching, not just touching your toes and say, I feel good. Right. But that is to keep you from being tight. And I do try to read a verse from the Bible. And I'm very serious. I'm quiet about that, but that's really important to me. That's what gives me faith, renewal. And if I'm driving, I listen to a radio program. Just in the first few minutes, it'll have some kind of biblical quote or something that helps me, keeps me going for the day. I know it doesn't work for everybody, so I don't talk about that, but that helps me a lot.
Oh, you can talk about that on the Life podcast. It's perfectly fine. And so did I hear you say that you're going to start, as you're on your commute, on your way to your class, you're going to start listening to the Life podcast while you're...
Of course. You heard your hearing is good, girl. You know that.
I thought I heard you say that.
I'm going to tweet that to everybody, all 4 listeners.
He said all 4 of his Twitter followers. So you guys really got to get out there and follow him. Because what happens, I don't know if they understand the dynamic. So as an ambassador, when he's an ambassador for a particular country, he has thousands of followers. But when he goes to a new country, he really has to get rid of those followers and start over, in the new country. So it's interesting to go from thousands of followers to 4 followers, right?
Yeah. Quite humbling, but it's okay.
I have a thing that says, what you think about me is none of my business.
Exactly.
What you think about me is none. So what I'm saying is your self-worth is not equated to how many followers you have. You're the same person who have 1,000 followers, and then when you have 4.
Oh, yeah. No, that I know. That doesn't bother me. That's
we're going to get you up from 4. We're going to get you we all get tired. We're out. You're teaching. You have your children, your wife, you have all these things you're doing. Who motivates the motivator? Where do you, Harry? Where do you go when you get tired for inspiration?
I do 2 things. One, I go to sauna. That relaxes me. Second, I smoke a cigar and drink a single malt.
Okay, you just chill all the way out. That's what you do.
But I don't get tired a lot. My parents worked multiple jobs. My mother always taught us that the Lord doesn't ask more than you can give.
Right.
But I can sometimes see if I'm forgetting things or getting a little irritable, I need to chill out, at least for my family, even if I don't think I'm tired. So the sauna is where you can just really be almost by yourself, even though there are other people in there. And, I don't smoke cigarettes or anything, never have. But, my boys, we all developed this taste for single malt and cigars a long way from Night Train and 2020. But we really like, and it's occasional, everything in moderation.
Right.
But it helps relax.
And I think everybody has a right to choose whatever you choose, your way of relaxing. So that's your
right. Yeah.
So what are 3 tools that you use to help you perform at a high level?
Yeah, practice. Whether I'm briefing, and back in the old days when I worked at the White House, briefing the President of the United States, briefing the Secretary of State, I practice. I make my team practice. I make them practice without notes. I make them listen to each other so they get rid of the whiskers, the uhs, the ums, the ahs, the you knows that drive me crazy. So always perform. Also, if you make a mistake, keep going. Mm-hmm. And third, relax. You got to have fun. Mm-hmm. If you're too tense, you can't do anything. And that's hard for people, but you learn, relax. Now, I take deep breaths beforehand. And I also take silently, I always say the same prayer, which is, Lord, please don't let me mess up. Please don't let me mess up. I say that. And one time I didn't. I messed up big time. So I really did. So, but I'm serious about that. I'm serious. And before I'm going to class, there's a Madonna outside the building next to the church. And I just stop and cross myself and pray for a minute, keep going. And so you have to have those rituals. But practice, they say practice make perfect. It really does.
Mm-hmm. So I hear you saying practice. I also hear you saying prayer, right? And then what I would say, I would add to tweet, modify, I would offer you this. It's when you're about to speak or to do whatever it is God, I just kind of surrender and allow you to flow through me. Let my words be your words, my thoughts and actions on your behalf. And the beauty of that is you'll never mess up when you do that.
Yeah, you're right.
Take the pressure of having to do it right off of you. Because if you're just allowing yourself to be that vessel, even with this podcast, when we have these conversations, it is my prayer that whoever is listening, that it just lighten the load, right? That if they get a new idea, if they've been mulling over something in their head, something that you say will spark something in their thinking to help them make a decision that they've been trying to make or to do something differently in their life. So it's always my intention. It is always my prayer that when we sit down to do these things, that it just flows, that I just decrease and allow my God self to increase. I allow my God self to flow in these conversations.
Thank you. I will do that. That's wonderful.
And then my last question that I have for you is, if you had to offer one thing that you could recommend to our Life Podcast listeners to help them live inspired fully every day, what would that be?
Have a muse, whether it's your spouse, your kids, a real close friend that can always tell you the truth. And you're going to take it, and that person or those persons will make you better. My friends from the Holy Cross, my wife, definitely my sister and my nieces and nephews, they keep you grounded. I'm not the ambassador to them. I'm taking out the garbage, sweeping the streets, shoveling the snow. But when, you're not always doing everything right. And let's be honest, everybody likes praise. Everybody likes praise. Everybody like to have their butt kicked. When you're ambassador, you tell the best jokes in the world. Your best dress is, what is that, cologne? But that's not reality. But when you get back to America, you're just on that line like everybody else trying to get through customs. Nobody knows or cares who you are. So, and some people can't adjust to that, take it personal. But have somebody close who can tell you the truth and accept it. Check yourself.
And so thank you for that. You said something that sparked something in me. What is that transition like? Because oftentimes we have a similar example where you have leaders who inside of their roles, inside of organizations, which a lot of my coaching ends up being around this, where you're a rock star inside of your organization. So as long as you work for that organization that has insert big name organization here, ambassador for the U.S., insert name of the big organization. When you leave, all those board appointments, all those things, all those Twitter followers, all those things. What happens to those? Like, what does it feel like?
Well, I'll tell you, before I went to Bangladesh, a friend of mine told me and another guy that when he came back from being ambassador to Tanzania, he went through the State Department's beautiful diplomatic entrance with all the flags, and he was no longer ambassador. He was waiting for his limo. It didn't show up because he was no longer. He had to walk to the subway. So that helped. But really what happened when I came back from Bangladesh, small country, but the American ambassador is really more popular than Michael Jackson, I'll tell you. Wow. And I was no longer, and I was working at the White House, remember?
Yes.
And I was no longer the rock star. I was like, Dad. So I went to Bangladesh Independence Day. And at their embassy, 6 months, I walked in there, all these people like, oh, look, it's him. And then I said, this is ridiculous, And so I was able to relax. And after that, leaving the Philippines and Zimbabwe, I didn't have those things. But I understand them. They're real. I have friends that walk out on their last day after they've given up their badge. And, they go, what am I going to do? Because they haven't spent time with their families.
Yes.
Kids find something to do. Wife finds something to do. Husband finds something to do. So you got to, while you're going on that great ride, which ends all too quickly.
Yes.
You got to take time for others.
I heard you in one of your speeches. You were saying that journey from diapers to diploma goes so quick, right?
It does.
And so it's the same thing in your career from when you're starting out, getting that first badge as a person in the service and working your way through the ranks. Time goes by very quickly. And so what I hear you saying is, as you're going through the journey, don't miss. One of my favorite things is I call it the little thing. Ambassador Thomas. And I always say, as we're going through, you can never be too busy to notice, to pay attention to, or to show up for the little things. Because in life, Ambassador Thomas, the little things are everything.
Yeah, I always made all of my daughter's events at school. I made it no matter what I was doing, even if I had to go back to work. But at the same time, I didn't always take enough time to enjoy the ride. And now it's over. So I really would tell people to do that. Anisha, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I am Anissa Rashad. You are
Harry K. Thomas Jr., Luke 12:48.
Yes, and we have just concluded another episode of the Life Podcast where we challenge you to live inspired fully every day. As always, we thank you for taking the time to listen to the Live Inspired Fully Every Day podcast. If you enjoyed the show, by all means, subscribe. While you're at it, do your friends, colleagues, and family a favor and share. There are thousands of podcasts available in iTunes, so help others to make the same choice you did by leaving a review. We love to hear from you, so leave us a question and maybe we'll select your question to answer on our next episode. The show notes that list all the books, tweetables, and companies we referenced are all available at lifebyAnissa.com. Until next week, I am Anissa Rashad, executive coach and leadership strategist, challenging you to live inspired fully every day.